Attention, my brothers and sisters.
Okay, thank you very much, brothers and sisters. And after that high energy, I have to bring it down, eh? I don't know. If it is, we go any higher, we'll float. We'll float. We'll touch the edge of space, all right? And we are not Elon Musk here. So tonight, I really want to thank the speakers which came before me. I don't think we could have asked for a better lineup. So thank you all so much. Now, over the past, the last 2 weeks, your UNC leader of the opposition, MPs and senators have been debated and voted no to the 2023 budget, which we found to be morally and economically wrong. Because speakers on the UNC side have said over and over that the only institution standing between Trinidad and Tobago and complete dictatorship today is the UNC. I repeat it tonight. Were it not for the United National Congress, Trinidad and Tobago would have been a place you did not recognize. You might have thought that we all spoke or had some kind of meeting prior to this meeting based on the trajectory of the various presentations. We had not. It is just that we have come to a particular point in our history, an inflection point in our history. And this morning, and Dr. Munilal has spoken about it, and I think Senator Roberts, when I saw that Express editorial, I couldn't believe it. I think it is the worst editorial I've ever seen written about anybody or anything in the history of this country. In the history of this country. So I want to repeat it again because it was a wake-up call. Dr. Munal did read the first paragraph, and that's the one I'm going to read. It is hard to escape the feeling that Trinidad and Tobago is run by a bunch of amateurs so blinded by political ambition that they can no longer distinguish right from wrong and decency from indecency. Man, that is what you call wood. The Dr. Munila will tell you what kind, you know. I am not so familiar with that. I don't have that kind of expertise. I wish I could have said the Express is prophetic, but I thank them at last coming to that realization. It took over 7 years for the blind to see, right? And Senator Roberts will talk about Mother Cornox. I don't know if it's Mother Cornox that lay hands on them, but they're seeing. Because we know Rowley had attracted absolutely no talent or competence in that cabinet. Only a bunch of hustlers who soon figured out how to leverage the cabinet for their personal gain through recusal. To the recusal scam. And to keep the hustle going, they weaponize the same cabinet again against those who do not share their point of view. Much damage has been done to this republic, and we hope and pray it is not irreversible. But we know that some days, very soon, not in the distant future, it will end up in the lap of Kamla Prasad Bisesa to set this ship of Trinidad and Tobago back on course. So today we cannot point to one single institution, and every single speaker would have spoken about that, which has not been polluted by this PNM. So the express statements can be applied to their use of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. Amateurs blinded by political ambition who just don't know right from wrong. Many times we raise the alarm in the Parliament. I mean, I saw Senator Lachmidial, you know, because when they bring legislation, you just look at it and you know they're targeting somebody. That has a name in law. It's called ad hominem legislation. That is when they work backward. They know who. You know, it's like Nelson say, how people does lie. You don't have to, you go put to make a suit sick and non-correct. You know, you don't need to see the person, just showing the place where the fella passed. That is them. They just have to see the person, and they're going to make a lie to suit that. And that is how we come up with this ad hominem legislation. When we see it, we start to shake because we just know who they are targeting. So when you see the UNC has stood in the gap, whether we believe that legislation that is ad hominem and unjustly targets the young men from Beetham or Laventille or Cocorito or Never Dirty, whomever we believe to be unjustly targeted, we refuse to support any setup because it is just lazy, cynical, and plain wrong. We advise them to bring good law, empower the police and judiciary, and let the wheels of justice turn independently. Again tonight, you will have heard about, because it's a trajectory. Everybody, we are all aware of what they have done. The office of the president, when we spoke up about the merit list, which the prime minister intercepted at the president's house, how do we know he intercepted it? Because he told us. He saw nothing wrong with that. To say, we didn't have to ask, he just said, it's me. I targeted. I went and I took that merit list. I did not allow it to go, take the natural trajectory to go to the parliament, and there I will stand up like a man and say, I don't want him, I don't want him. He interfered with that. And then there are those who wanted us to turn a blind eye. They wanted us to turn a blind eye, and we paid a price. We were sanctioned. You know why? I don't know if you remember in 2009 and 2010, when they said there were banks that were too big to fail, Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs, they said we had to prop them up, they're too big to fail. According to them, the president, Ms. Paula May, was too big to fail. So we had to keep our mouth shut and not do anything. But did we? We did not. We did not. And as the speakers before me have said, they have polluted every single independent office, all because they are vicious and dangerous. They do no work, care about no one, fly up and down all over the world, wasting taxpayers' money, whilst 9-year-old Jomo Mitchell is today waiting to be buried, robbed of his future because of P&M politics. So UNC, we did not get here by guess. Rowley is a man who went to the parliament filled with passion, and he told Trinidad and Tobago that the provision of laptops were foolhardy, his exact words. He's resulting in thousands being left without a device during that whole pandemic, the period of pandemic. We are now living with the results, the fallout of the P&M decision. This after, our UNC government would have gone about ensuring that every child could have gotten a place in the secondary school system. When oil was $9 a barrel, what happened under UNC government? We had dollar for dollar because the UNC believes in education. We believe education is the way out of poverty. We don't leave anybody behind. You see, so when KPB was prime minister, everybody who wanted a job could have accessed one. For 2 long years of pandemic, parents were leaving their cell phones at home for their children to do some semblance of work. And now we are wondering why young people walking around like a shell of themselves, cold, calculating, callous, and vicious, because we left them with, like the devil, with idle hands. And you know what happens with idle hands. And just before my time runs out, I want to talk about another institution, because there are so many. There is none that they did not pollute. The Election and Boundaries Commission. You will recall that in 2021, last year was 2021, but yes, early in 2021, 25th of January to be exact, there was an election of the THA. What was the result? 6-6. You would have thought this elder statesman of a prime minister, I'm not saying he is, that he would have gone to Tobago and said, listen, younger people, because they said, you take chief secretary, you take secretary for finance, that he will say, in the interest of the Tobago people, we will manage this THA until such time. No, he didn't want that. He found himself back in the parliament in under 1 month. What was he doing here? He moved to amend the 2 pieces of legislation to move the number of electoral seats from 12 to 15 in the blink of an eye. Now, this thing don't happen by guess, Every 4 years, there is a report coming out of the Election and Boundaries Commission which tells you how many seats they should have in Tobago. And from 2012, it was 12. 2016, 12. 2020, 12, which 2020 report was to treat with the 2021 elections. Right after that, not too long, they got, the Prime Minister by way of legislation, instructed the independent EBC, and they are independent under the Constitution, Chapter 70 of the Constitution tells the EBC, you independent. So they may have to beg nobody. So when the Prime Minister showed up and said, I want to move from 12 to 15 seats, all they said is, yes, darling. There's no resistance. They just went ahead and created 12 seats, thinking that they were going to win that election. But you know what happened? The PDP won 14 seats because the devil and all don't like ugly. The devil don't like ugly. It just couldn't work. So, it as I said in the preamble, it has that the EBC is very, very independent. So their independence is anchored, is protected by statute. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, there was no provision in law for the EBC to act on the Prime Minister's wishes or political ambitions. Therefore, Act number 2 of 2021 was equivalent to simidimi and hocus pocus because it had no basis in law. And as the leader of the opposition told them at the time, it was illegal and unconstitutional. All that time, we were like voices crying in the wilderness. Nobody will listen until the Express woke up this morning. And what did they say? They said, I have it here, it is hard to escape the feeling that Trinidad and Tobago is being run by a bunch of amateurs, so blinded by political ambition that they can no longer distinguish right from wrong and decency from indecency. Martin Daly, as they say, of Senior Counsel, he said, I am yet to understand the constitutional basis on which the government could require the EBC to make boundary changes in Tobago simply in order to break the 6-6 electoral tie that occurred in January. Fortunately, the legitimacy of an election and the pushback of the people of Tobago against being force-fed with legislative changes triumphed against another possible compromise of the constitutional principle. You all see what we are fighting against? We have been fighting this battle. Every single institution, they will just put their hands into it, irrespective of the law or just common decency. So Sunday morning, I was having my customary walk on Chancellor, and when I got to the bottom, there was a gentleman I knew who also walked. He was there, and I saw him next to his car. Someone in broad daylight had shattered the left back glass of the car. And he said they had stolen the $160. $160 he had put away in the car to go and purchase something for lunch, for his Sunday meal. His friend who had stopped to console him said, yeah, you see what PNM do to you? This scene of hardship and being victim of crimes is played out so many times in every 24-hour cycle as the manifestation of what PNM, in their mad evil crave for power, has done to you, the citizens. Just like 9-year-old Jamal Modest, also known as MJ, fatally shot in Enterprise on Saturday night. And he was among a number of people and children that people just feel that they could just come and open gunshot, kill this little boy. So UNC and citizens, that is what PNM has done by way they have chosen to run this country. A bunch of amateurs blinded by political ambition who can no longer distinguish from right or wrong. They ensured that 9-year-old Jamal Modest was not safe in the playground. If Jamal is not safe on a playground, where can he be safe? I'm saying tonight without fear of contradiction that the PNM and their policies killed Jamal Modest as if they had pulled that fatal trigger. Because as the Express editorial states, the buck stops with whom? The Prime Minister. The buck stops right there. So, we know it has been a long time in coming. And Martin Luther King said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Last week, when we were debating in the parliament, suddenly, somebody on the PNM side, they started to talk about Mr. Manning. I don't know what they're seeing. You know, they forgot that he was the one that their current leader said he went to Lekito to look for Obia 4. They forgot that. They forgot that. They're pretending as if their mind has been erased. But I want to also quote something. I remembered Mr. Manning was in a debate, and he was in the opposition, and he was under pressure. And he got up, and he said, quoted from a poem by Sophocles. He said, we cannot comment on how the day has been until we have seen the evening. Brothers and sisters, UNC, the evening is here, and PNM is on the run. They're on the run. They are seeing the evening, because it's only in the evening they could look back to see what they have done. And we need to keep that pressure on, because we need justice. Don't forget those 4 young men who they left to die. That is what all of this means, a bunch of amateur blinded by political ambition. When you are so blinded and you don't know right and wrong, you leave people to die in pipe, under the sea, miles under the sea. Right? We need justice for people like Andrea Barrett and others who were victims of rapes and vicious murders. We need that justice, and we cannot rest, because if there is no justice, there is absolutely no peace. We have to keep pressing on. We need justice for single mothers who are invisible to the PNM, big donors. You heard Dr. Mulilal talking about their massive edifice. And their man, Rohan Sinanan, said that it was given to them by donors. Well, I want to tell our political leader tonight, because he was saying that UNC renting, and they have a big building because of donors. He told us that to our faces. I want to tell our leader tonight, I, Jearlean John, and I'm sure all of you here, prefer to go out and talk every night under a lamppost outside here with a flambeau than to have any donors give us any big building. We don't want it. We don't want it. Let them take that money to Riverside Plaza. Let them take it to St. Vincent de Paul. Let them take it to Lost Peace, because if they continue, they might very well lose their peace. They might very well lose their peace. People out there are suffering, and they need help. So we must fight that not another child will die whilst playing on the playground in this country. UNC, the road is long and hard, but we running, and the PNM is on the run. And as sure as night follows day, the sun will rise again.